Hey, how is everybody today? So, in this week's assignment, you're going to read the poem Ozymandias. And today I just want to draw your attention to this statue behind me. It's called the Prison Ship Martyrs Monument. It's a statue that was built in 1908, and it commemorates or memorializes, it remembers the 11,500 people, men, women, and children, who died on board the British prison ships during the Revolutionary War around the year 1776. And again, one of the reasons that people build statues and monuments is because we want to remember something. We want to hold on to the past so that we don't forget. So remember, we talked about symbolism. Symbolism is the use of objects to represent complex ideas. So here's a sculpture, a statue of an eagle. There's 4 of these eagles that surround the prison ship martyrs monument. In this case, the eagles symbolize freedom, they symbolize hope, and they also symbolize a peaceful resting place, a grave. They're watching over the dead. This week's poem, Ozymandias, is about a giant statue, a broken statue that the poet, a traveler, comes across in the ancient desert. So a little bit of background. We're going to try to figure out, what does this broken down statue symbolize? What does it represent? And that's our learning target for the poem this week. I want you to analyze Ozymandias using SOAPSTONE like we've been doing. We want to think about symbolism a lot this week. What do statues represent? What do they mean? In ancient times, Ozymandias was the Greek name for an Egyptian pharaoh named Ramses II, an extremely powerful king who was not always the nicest ruler. And I just want you to think of this quote as you're reading the poem this week. "Nothing gold can stay." Now, there's other beautiful statues all over the world, of course. This is a gorgeous one from Brazil that overlooks the city. A huge statue in Russia. You can tell how big it is just from seeing the tiny little people in the foreground. What does it symbolize? Victory? Hope? Freedom? Another one in India, enormous. This is one of the biggest statues in the world. Again, it symbolizes something. In this case, peace. A beautiful statue of the Buddha in Japan. One of my favorites. These are enormous heads that are on Easter Island, which is right off the coast of Chile. What do they symbolize? Who carved these? How did they move these giant sculptures? Why did they take so much time? Do they symbolize gods? Do they symbolize spiritual leaders, important people of their time? Or did they just make them because they wanted to be remembered and leave something behind? Remember, that's a big subject in this week's poem, the idea of being remembered, the idea of leaving something behind. It's a very human feeling. So let's read this poem, and then we'll soapstone it and talk about it briefly. Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains, round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." So a very mysterious poem. I really love this poem because it's so mysterious. So let's just take a look at SOAPSTONE. Speaker. I'll give you a hint. There's more than one speaker in this poem. Can you count how many there are? We start off, I met a traveler. Okay, so there's one speaker, the narrator, the poet, who said, Now here's what the traveler is saying. So that's two people speaking already. We have the narrator and then we have the traveler. And as you read on, see if you can pick up anybody else who's speaking in this poem. Occasion, where does it take place? Well, when I read this over, I have a feeling it takes place in some type of desert, in some type of land where somebody might come across a huge statue. Audience, who is this poem intended for? Read it a few times. Ask yourself, who might this poem be intended for? Who might benefit from hearing the message? Purpose, tell a story, express a feeling, reveal an idea or an insight. Subject, what on earth is this poem about? So here's a few subjects I listed that I think this poem has to do with. Just pick one and think about it. Memory, time, or power, and fame, wealth. And finally, tone. What do you feel like the poet's attitude towards one of those subjects is? That's what you should be thinking about as you read this poem. And as you read and answer the assignment for this week, think about these two big questions. What might the giant broken statue of King Ozymandias symbolize or represent? And what is the poet trying to say about power, time, or memory? Thinking about these things will help you soapstone the poem, and it'll help you enjoy it more. Again, if anybody has any questions at all, just message us in chat. Now, here's a little magic eye. These were popular when I was a kid. If you blur your eyes and kind of stare into the middle of this image, a statue is going to pop out at you. A 3D image is going to pop out. But you gotta let your eyes go kind of blurry and be kind of lazy and just look at the middle of the picture for a little while. Try doing it for like 20 or 30 seconds and an image should pop out to you in 3D. Have a good day, everybody.